beautiful day in Texas, and I have yet another amazing guest. His name is Jay Flores. He has a degree in mechanical engineering. He is a global STEM ambassador, which means he is a major advocate for STEM. He is a keynote speaker, and y'all got to tell y'all, if you have not checked out his YouTube channel, it's science. Wait a minute. I got it here, but my eyes are moving too fast. It's not magic, it's science. You have got to check this young man out. And I was just telling him when he started, I had, there's a STEM conference that is a virtual conference that was promoted for the STEM teachers in Hawaii. And when I saw his face pop up there, I was like, I know him. He's going to be on the show. So, everything is all exciting and beautiful right now. So, Jay, would you take the time, introduce yourself to our guest, and tell him a little bit about you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for that event as well, and super excited to be here with you all tonight. My name is Jay Flores. For the past 5 years, was a global STEM ambassador at Rockwell Automation. I traveled all over the world supporting their STEM initiatives, both in the community by supporting students and speaking at robotics competitions, but then also internally to the company, making STEM a part of the company's DNA and STEM outreach valued as much as any other kind of work that employees could be doing. And then just this past January, I started my own business. So I went off on my own doing very similar work. I am now the founder and CEO of Invent the Change LLC. So similar to be the change you want to see in the world, it's invent the change you want to see in the world. And my mission is to change the world by inspiring young minds to keep doing cool things with STEM. And the key word there is keep, because our young ones are curious. From the time they're born, everything is an experiment. And there's a few things that we as adults and society do that get in the way that I'm trying to help us work on, so that each one of our little young innovators can grow up and make that impact that they want to have on the world.
Yes. And I've read through some of your things, and I looked through some of your YouTube videos and your TED Talk and things like that. And we have a lot in common, and that is letting kids try the world or try things. And if it works, wonderful. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you got to see the STEM around you. So, I have to praise you on that, because you're bringing it down to a level that, STEM is everywhere. We do it every day. It's not a big financial surprise that, it's going to cost me this much to be in STEM. It's not. We do it every day. Mm-hmm. So can you give us a little bit about your journey, your STEM journey? What was your inspiration into STEM, and some of your education, what got you here? Because you're a Latino, am I right? Because I have to make sure I get this right.
Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican.
You're Puerto Rican. You're a Latino. So when I was teaching, I had kids, because I had a large Hispanic African-American population, and they would tell me, we didn't do anything in science, we didn't do anything in math, and it would be like, what? No, wait a minute. And I started telling them about people and things. So I'm just so honored to have you on the show. So I'm going to shut up. Tell us a little
No,
bit
that's so important, because it's funny. You see a lot of the accomplishments of historically of, let's say, Mayan cultures, the pyramids in Egypt. And there's always these stories about how the aliens had to have helped them. And there's no one ever talking about how wonderful these cultures were when it came to math and engineering. And it's almost been erased over time. And we focus on other things like food and dance and music, which is all great parts of our culture as well.
Yes.
But there's so much rich STEM in our culture. And that's when I speak at Hispanic Heritage Month events and things like that, I try to make sure that I emphasize those things, because yes, it is great that we have wonderful music and that we do all these other things, but I want STEM to be as big of a part of that culture for young people to see themselves in. And so for me, I was very curious from a young age, and I had parents that were very supportive in my curiosity. I have this picture of when I was a little toddler inside of a box, and you could tell I was having so much fun in that box. I love that photo because you can just see the curiosity on my face. And that box could be a spaceship, it could be a car, it could be a building, it could be whatever I wanted it to be. And so I grew up very curious. I wouldn't say I was the student that was super passionate about math or science. I was good at them, but if it wasn't for teachers saying, hey, you're doing well in my class, you should consider engineering, I may have never went down that path. Because I didn't know really very many engineers from my community. So that's one thing, that if any teachers are listening and you have any students from diverse backgrounds that may not have these kind of role models in their lives, make sure that you can at least just plant that seed. All you have to do is say, you seem like a very curious student. You might be a good engineer. Even, they might take that and run with it. They might forget about it. Yeah. But in my case, I took it and I ran with it just because someone said I might be good at it. And I decided to explore it. And so I decided to pursue mechanical engineering at the University of Wisconsin. I had a lot of generous support from Rockwell Automation, which was my first employer. They paid for my education and offered internships. And that was really what helped me understand what engineering was, when I actually got those internship experiences. And when I got to have some of those hands-on kind of company tours and things of the sort, because in the end, I found out that it really boils down to problem solving, and you get to decide what type of problems you want to solve. And that's what I'm trying to help young people understand now, is that no matter what you're passionate about, we can find some STEM behind it. And if you can solve some problems in that area of passion, you can have a career. And
that's so true. That is so true, but you've got to reach out there. And one of the things you mentioned was connecting with, did you say Rockwell Automation. Rockwell. As a young person, reaching out and going to tour and visiting these various industries to find out what's out there. There are so many things around you that you may not know of, but you got to reach out and look at them. Go out and talk to people in areas that you may be interested in. And that's the way you find out some of the things that you like. Like, here we've got Lockheed Martin, we've got Bell Helicopter, we've got, AT&T, we've got all of these large companies and small tech companies and that students should get out and say, hey, I want to talk to somebody that's within that organization. So, I think that's important, and you took a great step to do that. So how was your time when you were in college, being a male, being Latino, being in engineering?
Yeah, I was fortunate that through some of the programs I did as a high school student, I did find somewhat of a small network on campus that was very supportive, but it still was very lonely. And in the sense that there were not very many people that looked like me. Overall, I had a great experience at the University of Wisconsin, but there were those challenges and not knowing where to go for help sometimes, or not having someone that had done this before. I'm the first engineer in my family. And so sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if there's not a support system around you that can help guide you in that direction, you might be missing out on all kinds of things that could be helping you. One of the biggest challenges was going from valedictorian in high school to getting a couple bad grades on some exams that I wasn't expecting, right? Because college is a totally different game. And when you see that, like a 39 on an exam, and you freak out, but then you find out that the average in the class was a 46 or something like that, right? And it's curved. Then those kind of fears things would have been nice to have support around. But I ended up finding a couple organizations that really did support me through my journey. One of the most significant being the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers.
Okay, I saw that in your bio.
Major. Go ahead.
I saw that in your bio. You did some great things with them.
Yeah, so it started out just I was looking for opportunities for leadership, and I decided to try to grab a role on that my sophomore year. My freshman year, they had actually reached out, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to be too busy. I have classes and things to focus on. I wish, any student out there, make sure that you're getting involved as soon as you can, because I fell in love with the organization, and it gave me so many different opportunities to travel, to learn, to meet companies that weren't in our backyard necessarily, to get other internships. And above all, just understand that there is a large community of Latinos that are out there supporting each other in STEM. And even if there wasn't a lot on my campus, there was a community out there, and I could get mentors and role models from different areas. And there's similar organizations for women, Society of Women Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers. Yeah. No matter who you are, where you come from, there's an organization that will support you in this journey. And you just need to be able to understand early on that engineering is a team sport, although it's not always graded that way. Yeah. It's, innovation is something that takes a team. And it's just because math or science are difficult doesn't mean you're bad at it. Yeah. It's kind of designed to be that way, right? When you're trying to create something that's never been created before, when you're on the cutting edge of innovation, you're going to run into a lot of roadblocks, a lot of failure, a lot of kind of going back to the drawing board and figuring things out. But that's all part of the process. And the earlier you can find out that that is part of the process and understand that and be okay with it, the better off you're going to be. So that's my tip to that freshman that might not be doing so well in this first moment, or may have to take a class over, or may just be, struggling a little more than you did in high school. It's part of the journey, and you learn to become comfortable with failure and understand that it's still, as long as you learn from that failure, it's still a step towards success.
Exactly. And, I, in listening to you, there are so many different STEM fields out there. There are so many different types of engineering fields out there. And, our young people need to really take a look at, okay, I want to be an engineer. What type of engineer can I be? Can I be a bioengineer? Can I be a mechanical engineer? Can I be a structural engineer? Can I be an environment? There are so many. And some of them, if you don't like math, no matter what you do, you're going to have to do some math, especially when you're doing your design process. But there are so many out there that may not be that math intensive as you think they are. So, opening that door, is something that I enjoy the fact that that you do so well. Because I'm just so utterly proud of some of my young STEM folks that I'm meeting and learning and listening to, because y'all are totally awesome. So, as part of the Society of Hispanic Engineers, can you tell us some of the things that you did with them? I read that you've been on some of the boards, and you're such a young man. Some of our young people don't think they have a say in what goes on in their lives or what goes on in their careers. So can you give me a little insight into that?
Yeah, I think I benefited from, I don't know if this is always a good thing, but I would raise my hand for things and I would just kind of go into it. Once I was into something, I would go in with all my heart. And SHIP was one of those organizations that I went in with all my heart. And I went to a couple of conferences that the executive board at the time had put up as an opportunity for people that wanted to go. If you would take the time and you're willing to travel, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I had a couple, they called them case study competitions at the regional conferences that I did two, and my team won both of those. And so I started to get kind of recognized as a potential future leader within the organization. When it came time for elections at the national level, they were looking for one additional student to represent on the board. And because of my engagement in those previous conferences, the fact that I stood up, that I networked, that I really took those case studies seriously and took my presentation seriously, they recognized me for that, and they nominated me for that position. So I was the youngest board member in SHIP history. I think I still have that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know at least at the time I was. And I got to be a part of shaping the organization, as you mentioned. The current mission statement I was part of crafting that. So we had a kind of a rebranding and change the mission statement. And to be able to be part of crafting that and making sure that it truly served our community and that it served the purpose that we all wanted this organization to be able to have an impact on future students. And then to hear students recite this mission statement in meetings or at conferences was just absolutely rewarding. And I know that those seeds that I planted as a student leader are impacting all kinds of people that I might not even meet. Mm-hmm. But that's what fuels me, is because every single time that I'm working with an organization like SHIP or trying to do something to inspire other students, eventually there's going to be a student that comes up to you and says, you changed my life in some way, or I watched your video and that really inspired me to go into engineering. And for every one of those that you do hear, there's 10 more that you don't hear. And so I always try to think of those in my mind and understand that even if it doesn't feel like it all the time, what I'm doing is making a difference, and it can make someone's life better in the future. And if that student then goes on to invent something that really, I don't know, like is a cure to cancer or creates a car that doesn't pollute, then you're touching millions of lives, yes, not billions. So it's just taking some time to go out there and give your gift to the world and understand that it's going to pay back tenfold, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment.
Yes, yes. If you don't mind, or if you can you share that mission statement with us, if you remember what it was off the top of your head?
Yeah. So SHIP changes lives by empowering the Hispanic community to realize its fullest potential through STEM access, awareness, support, and development. I may have messed up a word or two, but that's pretty much it.
I love that.
So the key there was the old mission statement was something along the lines of SHIP is the source for quality Hispanic engineers and technical talent. And my issue with that mission statement was that it was serving the recruiter. It sounded like we were a factory for brown engineers. And it did not truly serve the student. And so we changed it to start with SHIP changes lives. That is what we are trying to do, is to change the lives of Latino students all across the world so that they have access and awareness around these careers that can make their life better, that can change their community, and that can change the world. And so shifting that focus then to the student is going to make it better for everyone, because we're going to change more lives. We're going to inspire more, stronger and better student candidates that are then also going to end up going and working for these wonderful companies that support the organization. So putting that all together increased, I feel, significantly the passion the chapters had for the mission statement and for what they do and their role in fulfilling the overall organization's mission.
That's amazing. I mean, I like that mission statement. I love that mission statement because it takes into consideration, one, change, inspiring, and it's focusing on the demographic, the population that's out there. And the Latino population is not just, people from Mexico, people from Puerto Rico, people from Spain, people from Cuba. There is a large population, and I'm going to tell you, just like the African American community, we have done some amazing things that's not in the history books, and we're not telling our kids. So, give them that, them becoming an engineer is not something new. You've been out there, but you just haven't heard about it. So, exactly. Love that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. I come to you every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time here on Fish Road Radio Network at Globe Life Park. And I know I've mentioned in the past the GEMS Camp. If you have a young lady who is interested in STEM or interested in a wonderful organization here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, we have the GEMS Camp, and they have boxes that they can send out to your young women. They can be part of the camps even at home. And, y'all, I got a fabulous guest today. His name is Jay Flores. He's a mechanical engineer. He is a STEM ambassador. He is an awesome speaker, and he has his own YouTube channel called It's Not Magic, It's Science. And he and I just finished talking about his journey into STEM and being part of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And Jay, I have a couple of questions. Well, I have a whole bunch of questions. That's what I'm here for. But you mentioned that you got to travel. What was some of the places that you really, really, I mean, really sticks with you, or you really, really like to go in there?
Yeah. Oh man, that's going to be hard to pick. I've been blessed to be able to go to pretty much every continent except for Antarctica, and I've had wonderful STEM experiences in all of them. One that really stands out, though, in terms of what happened when I was there is India. And so when I was in India, I was supporting an event, the first Lego League National Championship, and they had me there as their they had a specific term for it. Their chief guest is the name for it, which was an absolutely wonderful honor to be able to serve in that role. And I made sure to go and listen to every single team that was there. I spent a significant amount of time on my feet that week, but it was absolutely inspiring. And there were a couple groups of students that presented to me in their native languages, and I couldn't understand them, but I could see their passion and their energy. And so I made sure to reach every single one of them. And there was one particular group of students that stood out because that year the challenge that they were trying to solve was around water. And this group of students was searching for a low-cost solution to testing for E. coli in the water. The reason why they chose this is because one of their teammates had gotten very sick and almost died because of E. coli. And so they found this method to be able to do it, and they tested the water in their school. And all of it came positive for E. coli in the water. So it taught me a lot of things. One, that there's a lot of problems out there that we have solutions for, but unfortunately the people that have the solutions don't have the problems. So sometimes we need to look beyond our circle and understand that there are other people that have challenges that we can help with some of the technologies or thoughts or time, et cetera, that we have. And the other thing was just how wonderful it was that these young children were becoming part of the solution that they saw a problem in their backyard. And that they were then going out and educating people in their community that, okay, if you're seeing this or if people are getting sick, make sure that you're doing X, Y, or Z to make sure that you reduce the chances of getting sick. And to just be there and see that was absolutely wonderful. And I've had wonderful experiences like that all over the place. And my second to last trip right before the pandemic was to Mexico. And there was a group of students showing me their demo, and the wind blew and knocked it all over on the ground. And I was devastated for a second, but to see them just kind of work together and try to figure it out to put it back together and keep doing their presentation to me, these students were like 8 or 9 years old. I was like, if we have more students like this across the world, we have a very bright future coming on. So I've had wonderful experiences all across the globe. But what I've realized is that if you give children the opportunity, if you give them a safe space to explore, to fail, to play around and learn at the same time with STEM education, we can do absolutely incredible things no matter where we are in the world.
Yeah. And you mentioned something. You mentioned a couple of things that resonate with me. The first thing is from India, is the fact that they took a real world problem, mm-hmm. and they took a look at resolving a real world problem, which may not be totally resolvable, but it can be kind of not necessarily had to allow somebody to get sick. And then the other, STEM is huge on teamwork. And you went down to Mexico and you say the wind blew over their display, and they worked as a team and they kept going. They picked it up, got it back together and went on with their presentation. So, and that's a big thing. It's one thing about with STEM, you're not just working alone. And then now we're looking at how to solve real world problems and get resolutions for that. Because like right now we've got to figure out how we're going to get all our babies back in school. So, between the masking, the hand washing, the social distancing, all of these problems we've had to deal with this year, and we've had to teach our kids how to deal with them. Online learning, oh my goodness. I don't know if you have children. This online learning is a handful. But so you have done a lot of presenting. Looking at you, I Google you because I Google my people to death. Google is a wonderful thing. And you sent me an awesome bio. You've been presenting for a while, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about was Telemundo. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience, very unique and challenging. It was, think of a mix of Survivor and American Ninja Warrior. So not necessarily as challenging in terms of difficulty as Ninja Warrior, because you could complete all the obstacles, but there were obstacles. And then not as crazy, like we weren't hunting our own food, but there was this dynamic of you live in like a cabin or in the mansion, and like when you're in the cabin, it's 10 people in one bathroom and no air conditioning and all these crazy things. And it wasn't a STEM show per se, but they portrayed me as the STEM person. So the smart guy that was also an athlete. And, I had the opportunity to talk about how I used physics or my engineering brain to take on the challenges that we were facing and be able to, kind of find efficiencies on the course. And so it was a wonderful opportunity during prime time on Telemundo, 6 days a week, to be able to showcase a Hispanic engineer to my community. And that was, the main reason why I did it. It was obviously a lot of fun. I love doing obstacles and Ninja Warrior type activities, but I really wanted to make sure that I could, not just through this opportunity, any opportunity that I get, be a positive role model for my community, and show them a path towards something positive. Because I grew up around a lot of students that didn't have anyone in their family that was guiding them in the right direction. And unfortunately, oftentimes they were being guided in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. So at an early age, I decided that I was going to do everything I could to be that positive male role model, because I'm the oldest of all my cousins and siblings. So I wanted to make sure that I took those steps. And so the show was a wonderful opportunity to be able to reach many people that may not have ever heard of STEM or engineering, definitely didn't meet an engineer at any point. Lots of moms and grandmas that could then tell their children, hey, you should be an engineer like Jay. There's different, tons of opportunities to connect to that community. And it's something that I hope to see more and more of. We need to continue to celebrate STEM in the media, whether that's radio or print or movies or TV shows, because society gets the best of what it celebrates.
Yes.
And we need to celebrate engineering to that same level.
Yes.
And the reason why I like that show is because I was able to do it in a way that wasn't saying STEM is better than this or this is more important than that. What I did was I combined STEM with what people were already celebrating. This was a very popular show on Telemundo, and now I'm bringing some STEM into it. And so if I can help some people see the connections and the ties there, I hope that they'll then look for STEM in other aspects of their life. And so I do that in a lot of my other different projects. I do one called Changing the Game, where we talk about the STEM behind sports. Oh. And just finding as many ways as possible to inspire young people to look at the passions that they have and find the STEM behind it. Because I feel like a lot of times we talk about, oh, engineering is important, you're going to make a lot of money, we need you, right? And that's not necessarily going to inspire anyone to do more math or more science or go down that path. But if you can show them that physics can make you a better basketball player, or physics can help you build a career in, let's say, we'll continue with the sports analogy, in sports beyond the court. So you can still stick with your passion, even if you're not going to be the next LeBron James.
Yeah.
Just understanding that there are ties to STEM behind whatever it is that you're excited about is going to make a huge difference for a lot of students. And if they truly go down deep in that passion, they're going to change the game and make the world a better place in those areas that they're excited about.
I like that. Now, on your YouTube program, it's not magic, it's science. I love how you do it in three parts.
Okay.
You do the activity, then you explain the activity, and then you go a little bit deeper to the end. And it's things that you could do at home with stuff that you have at home. It's not having to go out and spend, $150 on a great big Lego set or something like that. These are things that we have at home, which is what I do with my students, and which now, since I'm quote unquote supposed to be retired and that ain't working real well, I do with my nieces and nephew, because they're being not homeschooled but distance learning because of the pandemic. Can you tell the audience about that particular YouTube channel? And I want to get into your new project after that.
Yeah. So this is something that was born right after my trip to Mexico. I had one more to Brazil, and then everything got shut down. And I had this awesome schedule for the year of all kinds of robotics events and conferences and things that I was really looking forward to. All of a sudden, overnight, I came back and we were going into lockdown, and things were not going to be the same. And for a second, I allowed myself to be a little bit disappointed and mad about that. But then I decided I'm not going to let this become the best or the worst month ever. I'm going to figure out how I can still make it the best month ever, even if it's in a different way. And so I started to think about how can I still reach students, and what are they going to still be on even if we're in lockdown? They're still going to be on their phones. And at the time, TikTok was on fire. So they're going to be on TikTok. And so I decided to create something for TikTok. I chose magic because it's inclusive, whether you're a boy, you're a girl, rich, poor, young, old, brown, black, white, etc. Anyone can connect to magic. That's why I chose magic. And I wanted to make sure that I also designed all of the experiments with equity in mind, because I knew people were going to be in a lot of struggles financially. So I didn't want any students to have to worry about whether they could afford the materials or not. So it's either something you already have in your home, or you could order on Amazon for just a few dollars. And so putting those two things together, then I knew I had something I could package and bring to the community. But now I needed to make sure, how do I make sure that it really sticks and that it gets above all the noise? Because most people think TikTok, they're like, Jay, what are you doing on TikTok? Are you doing dances? This is such a waste of time. And yeah, TikTok is used for a lot of those things that I would consider to be more of a time suck sometimes, a distraction. But it doesn't mean that that's the only use. And if young people are telling us that this is how they like being communicated to, we should make sure that we're engaging with them on those platforms and in the way that they want to be communicated with. Let's make sure we're meeting them where they're at on their terms. And so I started with just the experiment. So the first video it just appears to be a magic trick. If I didn't say it's not magic, it's science, you would have no clue it's science. You would just think I'm some random magician guy that happens to be wearing a STEM shirt. And that's also by design, because I wanted to hook people that weren't already looking for science experiments, right? I know there's going to be some great moms out there, some great clubs, some great dads, some great grandparents that are going to put some of this stuff in front of their children. But I wanted to reach those that weren't already looking for it, because the other ones are going to be easier to get to. And that's just a hook. I just want you to get excited about what's going on and then think, okay, how did he do it now? Now I'm curious. Let me listen more and see if he's got the second video out. So the second video is the explanation. Mm-hmm. And that is, in most cases, magicians don't share their secrets. In this case, I'm a scientist, so I can share that secret with the students, and they can feel like they're part of figuring out how that cool trick happened, which is not an experience that you often have with magic. You're usually left kind of in the dark on that. And so the other key thing that I forgot to mention is that these are very short videos. So the first experiment video is 15 to 30 seconds long, and the explanation video is no longer than a minute. And I try to explain it in a way that an 8-year-old could understand and a 108-year-old could understand, so that anybody can engage with the science at some level. And then finally, the next video, the third video, is the exploration video. And this one's the most important, because this is what brings this STEM to life for that student. It's great that I was able to kind of get them excited about the first video. It's even better if they listened in a little longer and learned a little bit about the science. But if they don't then go on and apply it, or at least think about a way in which they could apply it in the future, then you're not having that next level impact. So the exploration is very important. And we go over a couple examples of something that science may be used for already, but more importantly, how they think that science could be applied to something. And that's my favorite part with this experience, is when the students share what their idea is, or a parent will share what their son or daughter had as the idea, or even better, show a video or a picture of the experiment and kind of whether it went well or not. And that exploration, the students going out and doing it themselves and coming up with an idea, is what's going to inspire them to take that to the next level. Because it's not the experiment, or it's not the equations that matter, it's what you can do with those equations that matter. If the students then go on and want to learn more about that particular science, then that's the ultimate win. And then finally, we have some what I call bonus content. So that could be fail videos, because I want the students to understand that it doesn't always work right. And sometimes the fail videos get the most views. So those are actually kind of helpful, even though they're not fun in the moment. And then like slow motion or other cool TikTok trends that are going on, and I'll do some additional things. But overall, I found it to be wildly successful on TikTok, and then I share it to all my other channels like YouTube and LinkedIn. And it reached over 1 million students during the lockdown time, and
wow.
We're doing even cooler episodes now. I just launched a couple with Cedar Point, the amusement park in Ohio, where we did the experiments instead of in my kitchen, outside of a roller coaster or other amusement theme park rides. And I'm just looking for more and more ways to keep engaging students via this kind of formula and exciting opportunity.
And one of the things that I thoroughly enjoyed about them, and that's probably the educator in me, is you use the terminology, and you put it up there. You gave STEM terminology purpose to people, not just to kids, like you say, from 8 years old to 108 years old. Because they were like, the bubble, instead of saying, the bubbles put the candle out, it's carbon dioxide. You also give them terminology that works in that situation. And I totally thought that was amazing looking at that one. I looked at some more also. I'm like, look at this young man. And I love the time frame. It wasn't long.
Yeah.
It kept your interest, because people's time attention spans are getting shorter and shorter some days. So, but I like that. So, what are you working on now? You said you had a thing that you're branching out on your own with.
Yeah, so Invent the Change is what I called it. I'm doing a lot of similar work, but now I'm, I guess a free agent working with more partners and really wanted to be flexible during this time where uncertainty and COVID and everything is got a lot of opportunities or challenges, depending on the way you look at it. And I wanted to make sure that I was leveraging my strengths to the maximum and putting myself in the best place for impact. Mm-hmm. And so I've got some wonderful partnerships still with Rockwell Automation and many of the other organizations that I worked with in the past. Mm-hmm. And I'm continuing to expand that. It's not magic, it's science is a huge part of it. Whether that's doing experiments, like I mentioned, with Cedar Point and taking them kind of to the next level is one of the passions that I'm looking at. I'm trying to figure out how I can take that to TV. I think it's got a wonderful format for TV, whether that's a version where it's like a live audience and they come up and be part of the experiment. I don't know if you saw the one with my wife where I had the big bag of water over her head and then we put the pencils through it. So it was a polymer experiment, but it's a great kind of like nail biter. Is she going to get soaked? Like, is she going to divorce him when she messes up the experiment? Yeah, it's a huge like gallon Ziploc bag full of water over her head. They could have just, when I pushed the pencil through, could have got her soaking wet. And so like imagine that, bringing students or families up on stage and doing those type of experiments, finding ways to make them even bigger and more exciting. And more importantly, reaching a broader audience of students that may not have been looking for this content in the first place, but will get inspired by something like that. I could also see it as a show more like How It's Made. And a student asks a question and then we say, well, it's not magic, it's science. And then we go into that and do a How It's Made type style episode. And I'm exploring with all of that right now. doing a lot with sports as well. One, because I'm passionate about sports, and two, it's one of the things that our society celebrates the most right now, and that has found a way to continue somehow through the pandemic. So let's make sure that we're showcasing all the different opportunities there are for careers in analytics, in designing of stadiums, in making the fan experience more exciting because of advances in technology. Just finding all those ways to help young people understand that there's more than one way to go pro in sports. And then really amplifying and elevating organizations that are doing really cool things and people that are doing really cool things in this space, and figuring out how I can work together with them to take that even to the next level and inspire more young minds. So if anyone's listening that's open up to want to talk about some potential ideas you have, I'm always open to discussing how we continue to inspire young ones in STEM.
And keeping that in mind, if someone wanted to or needed to or contact you or find you, what's your social media handles? Don't give out your personal phone number, because I don't want your wife coming after me. How would people contact you? Because you got so much great content, you've got so much great insights and enthusiasm. And Dr. Payton, shut up, because you keep talking. So how do people contact you?
No worries. The easiest way is to just go to my website, jfloresinspires.com. That's JAYFLORES, inspires.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, that has all the links to my social media. So it's got my TikTok, my Instagram, Twitter, etc. Because J Flores Inspires fits on Instagram, it fits on TikTok, but on Clubhouse and Twitter, they don't give you enough characters to make that your handle. So I had to change it for those platforms. I have a different one. So it's easiest just to go to the website, scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all the direct links there. In terms of any of my resources, all of the videos are up on a playlist. If you search for my name, which is J Flores, or if you search for It's Not Magic, It's Science, you should find the playlist for all the experiments. Those you can do at home for free. Watch the videos with your children, see which ones they're excited about, and then do the experiments yourself. And then also on, I have a separate playlist on that same YouTube channel with some of those experiments in Spanish. So I'm trying to increase my content that's also available in Spanish for families that might not be as bilingual, especially on the parent side, because it's such an important part of a STEM journey is that family support and helping people be comfortable with that. There's too many parents that say, I'm not a math person, and I'm really trying to end that, because when you talk to a child and they're struggling with tying their shoes, you don't just give them a pair of Velcro shoes and say you're not going to be a shoe tying person, right? Like, you go through that challenge and you figure out how to help them tie their shoes, whether it takes a couple days or it takes a year. That's how it should be with math. It's not always going to happen right away. It's going to be difficult at times. I want to make sure that parents and families are involved and engaged as much as we can, and finding ways to make that fun and exciting is what I'm all about.
Yeah, and opening more than one avenue of getting that information, because see, I'm in Texas, so I've taught at schools that have had high populations of Hispanic or Spanish-speaking students, not just so much Hispanics, but students from different countries that were Spanish-speaking. And so I understand how important that is. And trust me, I have messed up the Spanish language for years. And the kids like, Dr. Payton, you're not supposed to say that word. Well, you said it in class yesterday. What does it mean? We can't tell you that. I'm like, okay. Or I'll be explaining something in Spanish, and they'll give me that look like, okay, did you really mean to say it like that, or do you mean to say it like this? So, I get corrected a lot, or used to get corrected a lot, probably still do. But, that is amazing, amazing, amazing. We've got 4 minutes left. This has gone by so quickly, which means I'm going to have to steal you again and have you back on, because I want to know what have, in about 6 or 7 months, what have you done? How have you progressed? What do you have going on? But I want to give you this time to, give some shout outs to some people that are out there, and give us a great word of wisdom that you would like to give to the audience So can you do that at this time?
Absolutely. Shout out to all of the organizations out there that are doing incredible things for young people. I'll highlight the organizations we talked about earlier: Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, ACES. There's several different organizations that are doing incredible things for students from underrepresented communities. First, the robotics organization, first.org, is another one that I would highly encourage any parent to at least introduce your children to. It's a wonderful organization that is doing incredible things all around the world. There's probably a team somewhere nearby you, if not at your school already. That's one thing I wish I would have been engaged with at a younger age. And my children are definitely going to be on first LEGO League teams. We'll have that all over the house when we do have children. And then the last couple of tips that I'll just leave with parents, teachers, educators is to make sure that we continue to encourage the question why, especially in your toddlers, your young ones. It's easy to get frustrated when they've asked why 1,000 times, but that is them being an engineer. That is them figuring out how to explore, how to question, how to start that kind of design thinking process. And if we shut that down early, those students are not going to then want to take on the things that they need to do in the future to solve those problems. So no matter how crazy their question is or their ideas are, continue to support them in that space. You don't have to come to an answer. Just get them to explore. And if you can help them in that, they're going to do a lot of really cool things down the road in the future. And then finally, anyone that wants to reach out, again, feel free to head to jfloresinspires.com or to the YouTube channel or connect with me on any of the social media platforms. More than happy to connect about STEM. And I hope that we'll be able to cross paths in person at some point, and whether that's at one of my speaking engagements or a conference or an event, because I really miss my STEM squad.
I know. But hey, you are doing wonderful things, and I will share the link to your website on the page when I get home, because I am here in one of the biggest sports stadiums in DFW, which used to be the Texas Ranger Stadium, which is now Globe Life Field. I'm lucky to be in a studio here, so if y'all are really interested in sports, think about what he said. There is more to being in sports than just playing sports. But hey, Jay, it's been phenomenal having you on. And this better not be your last time. If I don't reach out to you, feel free to reach out to me, because I have people who will reach out to me and say, hey, I'm doing something wonderful now, or I have a new book out, or I have a new program out. Can I come on the show again? Hey, the door is open. I'm old, so I don't remember people. No, I'm teasing. But come to me anytime, or I'm going to come to you. I'm going to be looking you up and like, ooh, I need to get Jay back on. So please, please, please feel free.